Mike Moore Media.
Hello. We want to say thank you to Mike Moore Media for providing the studio to do this important podcast. And we like to let everybody know about the community treasures and hidden gems here in Rockingham County. Today, we want to meet the chaplain at Penn Hospital, Reverend Sayward Wilson, and we are certainly happy to have her with us today and perform an invaluable service to people who are going through crisis a lot of times. And so we'd like to talk a little bit about that today. Good morning, Sayward. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, tell us a little bit about your family and maybe where you're from and all of that.
All right. Well, I'm 43. I moved here 21 years ago from Louisiana.
Oh.
Yeah, and to attend Wake Forest University Divinity School and never left.
Wow. Well,
and so I found a home.
There you go.
Here.
That's great. We did the same thing 22 years ago. We moved up here from Florida, so I can identify with that. Welcome, I guess, and because there's still people that tell me I'm not from around here. So
I know. I get that all the time.
That's
People ask, where are you from? And I said, well, I'm from Louisiana originally, but I'm a North Carolinian now, and I love to call North Carolina home.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, again, we're excited for the work that you do, and let's find out a little bit about that. What all does a chaplain do at a hospital?
What does a chaplain not do at a hospital?
I hear you.
Yeah, so I am the lead chaplain here at Penn. I have 3 chaplains under me.
Oh.
They're PRNs, and they cover nights and weekends. But I am primarily here 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. I provide support to the staff. I am also a support to patients and their families. And this is how I like to explain it. Instead of having being a pastor of a church, my church, or congregants, so to speak, are the staff and patients and families at Penn.
I see.
And so that involves prayer. That involves being present with folks in the emergency department in crisis. They may have family members in ICU, sudden illness, going through cancer treatment. Or long-term illness. And so what I am is a point of contact. I am a provider of support and spiritual care. No matter what a person's religious background, I am present and available.
I guess that would be
one. Support.
I guess that would be one of our questions. Is we would assume that you would only see church people, but I assume you do everybody. Is that right?
Oh, I provide support to everyone, no matter if they've been churched or not.
That's fantastic.
Or if they're Muslim or Buddhist, or have never stepped foot in a Christian church, or have been more spiritual, maybe have been introduced to Jesus from their grandparents or whatever. So at times of crisis, we often go back to what our childhood beliefs are.
Sure.
And so folks really do seek out a person to be present with them. And sometimes they don't.
Sure.
So, but I'm a Baptist minister, and I'm an ordained Baptist minister, but I have worked with and do work with people of all faiths and traditions.
That's wonderful. What got you into being a chaplain? Was that something you came to Wake Forest to learn to do?
No, I came to Wake Forest to be a professor.
Oh.
And God had other plans.
Mm-hmm.
I interned as a chaplain at Hospice and Palliative Care Center. It was named at the time in Winston-Salem.
I see.
And had a few patients as an intern and fell in love with the work. But the real reason why I guess I felt called into chaplaincy was I helped both of my grandparents pass when I was 20.
Oh, my.
And being a co-caregiver for them and also walking with them through that process taught me a lot about death and dying, and also the importance of spiritual care around those times.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I moved up here and interned at hospice, I just kind of looked up at God and said, okay, I guess I'm not going to get a doctorate. I guess I'm going to be a chaplain. So it was almost as if it was what I was called to do.
That's awesome.
And I've been doing that ever since.
That's wonderful. So were you a hospital chaplain before Annie Penn?
I wasn't. I've spent the majority of my career since age 22 in hospice work as a hospice chaplain, first at Hospice and Palliative Care Center in Winston.
I see.
And then moved to Hospice of Rockingham County, and then here to Annie Penn. But before I started in Hospice of Palliative Care in Winston-Salem, I had to go through clinical pastoral education.
Sure.
And I did so at Baptist Hospital
Okay.
for 2 years, and then also spent another 2 years at Cone.
Okay. Well, both of those places are very, very busy, so I know that you've had a wealth of experience with those.
Oh, yeah.
Those times for sure. So maybe an odd question, I guess, but since we're in the holidays, is it more difficult to be a chaplain during the holidays?
I wouldn't say it's more difficult, but I do feel that folks really do need more care.
Mm-hmm.
The holidays are a hard time for many, especially remembering loved ones that have passed even the year before or years and years before. Grief has a funny way of poking its head again.
Mm-hmm.
And when we meet and gather with our family and friends, we often remember those we've lost, and there are times that folks, if you're battling an illness or your family member is, it brings up a lot of pain
Sure.
and grief from that time before. And so what I would say is that people need a little more care, I think, around this time of year.
Okay.
And a little more space to be heard.
Sure. That's good. About how many people do you see in a week? I mean, do you have rounds like a physician would have, or?
Yes. So I first go to a meeting every morning where we all, an entire interdisciplinary team, connected with the hospital, which is all the physicians, social workers, nurses, and myself. We meet and talk about all of our patients.
Hmm.
And from there, I prioritize by need, who to see. On any given day, I could see anywhere between 5 to 10 patients.
Oh, wow.
It just really depends on what's going on at the hospital at the time. But I visit all units. So the emergency department here at Annie Penn, our med-surg floor, which is 300, and our ICU, which is on the second floor. We have a cardiac rehab and the cancer center. Mm. And so at any given time during the week, I could see anywhere between, 0 to 50 people. It just depends.
So it's not just a desk job, I guess, huh?
Lord have mercy, no.
So,
I'm quite busy here.
So who determines who you help? Do you just, like you say, you go to this meeting and kind of pick and choose from that, or how do you determine who you're going to see?
To be honest, I think the Holy does.
Oh, okay.
So really, I don't really have an agenda when I walk in. It's usually given to me. There are nurses and doctors that call me and say, for example, this morning, I've got a person that has had a new cancer diagnosis, and they ask, it would be okay if you could go in there and see them, and just check in with them. And so there you go.
Right.
It's almost as if, they understand what my role is and where I'm needed. And so I just kind of allow the Spirit to guide me.
That's great. So is a family able to request a chaplain, or does it need to come through the nurse or a doctor?
Anyone can ask for me.
Okay.
Anyone can ask for a chaplain at any time of the day or night.
Oh, okay.
And so you don't have to be a patient. You can be a patient family member. You can ask for support. A patient can ask for support, but primarily it does come from the physicians and nurses and staff.
Okay. Well, again, sometimes when we're going through an emergency and it's critical, I would think, I guess, that maybe a chaplain's not at the forefront if the doctor's standing there ready to reset something or whatever. So it's good that they have that ability too. It
is, and it's not necessarily just when someone's dying or something's very serious. You know, I come in and I can actually help with communication between the team and the family and patient of what their needs are and what their voice is, especially when it comes to making healthcare decisions, either at end of life or at any time.
Sure.
So because, you know, there are ethics involved as well in healthcare. So those are conversations that I have all the time.
I see. So if someone's been a patient at the hospital and they feel like once they get out, they still would like some spiritual care or some spiritual help after their stay, or even a family, would that be something you could provide?
Yes, it is. And then, you know, if after a few times, you know, of talking, that it seems that they need more of a long-term spiritual support, then it is, you know, of course, conversation of a home church, or also mental health, you know, resources as well. We've got part of our spiritual care department at Cone is a employee assistance program, but it's also counseling. And so we have resources available within our department to provide that as well.
That's wonderful. So I'm really grateful that you are there. I know the value that you have, especially since the pandemic when pastors were not allowed in for a while. And even now, I think it's a little more restrictive than it used to be. I can remember years ago just going in and looking at a list and seeing who's there. If anybody's out of our church, you know, we just go see them.
Right.
And I know that's not allowed anymore. But
oh, no.
But the work that you do in that bridge, if you will, between people and their pastor or people in their faith or even people in no faith, I think is extremely valuable to those folks and of course to our community and to the hospital system there at Cone and the work that you do. Any parting thought here before we sign off that you'd like to share?
Sure. I would like to say that for any of the pastors in our community, I am here to help you as well. I meet so many of you during the week and provide support to many of your congregants. And if at any time you need anything, support for yourself, because often as ministers, we need support as well. But also, if you need some help with your congregants, please do give me a call. And you can just call Penn Hospital and ask for the chaplain, and they'll get me.
Well, that's fantastic.
They know where to find me.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm glad to know that, and I guess I should have known that, but that's wonderful that you provide that service as well. Well, again, we want to say thank you to Reverend Sayward Wilson and the work that she's doing there at Penn Hospital as chaplain, and again to Mike Moore Media and the space that we have here to be able to do this podcast each week. So thank you all for being here today. God bless. Goodbye.
Thank you.